Welcome everyone to RallySport's triathlete interview. I'm Peter Teagarden and I'm here with Sam Long today. Sam, thank you for coming in and being allowed to interview.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Well, Sam, I think everybody here at RallySport would like to know a little bit about your background, and you know, we have a lot of athletes that work out here. The first thing we'd like to ask you today is, you know, how did you get involved with triathlons? And you know, more recently you were in Ironman Boulder.
So that's a good question. I've only been in triathlons for a little over 3 years. I actually got into triathlons the first year Ironman Boulder came around in 2014. I just graduated high school and I basically went, I'm going to go and do an Ironman, see if I can do it. Just see what I'm made of. And I had a running injury that spring in track. And so it was kind of like I had been injured, and you know, when you're injured, it makes you love the things you want to do more. And so that's how I figured, okay, I'll really push myself to the limit. And so once I was back and healthy again, I went out to doing an Ironman. And once I did it, I was totally hooked, and I'm never going back.
Right. And so you recently competed in the Ironman Boulder. Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a heck of an experience. This last race was the hardest I've ever had to push myself. At mile 12 on the run, I had such a major bonk and just had such a dark place mentally and physically that I thought I was maybe going to be finishing in 17 hours because I thought I was going to have to lie down and take a nap and sit in the creek. But you know, something in my mind just clicked, and I was able to run again for the last 13 miles, and that was really the defining moment of this race, was at mile 12 of the run. Once it clicked in my mind.
Well, and leading up to that, you know, the swimming and the biking, nothing really came over your mindset during that time. It was just really the run.
Well, that's no. I got completely dropped on the swim.
Oh, okay.
So I had to swim pretty much the whole swim minus 500 yards on my own, and that was kind of discouraging. But I just kept on being positive and self-affirming. And then on the bike, I always get really calm on the bike, and so not too many thoughts on the bike. Just kind of eat, drink, pedal. Those cycle through again and again. So that's kind of the story, and I actually don't think about much when I race. It's a moment of intense focus kind of the whole time, so there's very few outside thoughts that enter my mind.
Really? So now, you know, so take us through. So I guess, you know, during the run, when you were at mile 12, like you said, was it difficult? I mean, what allowed you to get out of that zone from that negative space?
I'm still trying to figure that out, honestly. I think there's kind of something inside all of us that it's just sort of the desire to push ourselves and to find more what's out there, and I think that's what it is. I think it was more at an unconscious level than anything else. I was consciously trying to run and going, okay, just get nutrition in, get some food in, and then you'll get going again. But when it actually clicked, like, there was no one thought that went through my head. It was just like all of a sudden I was going and I didn't have to walk again.
Wow. Well, good stuff. I mean, you know, we were all rooting for you throughout the day, and I know it was a long day. Was there anything else you take away from this recent Ironman in Boulder?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The second thing I took away from this was how much it brought the community together and the community around me. It was so cool having all those people out there supporting me and cheering me on, and it just reminds me that I can't do what I do without the support of literally hundreds of people on a daily basis. And all the people who reached out to me after and before the race saying good job and what an inspiring story, and that's another big reason I do this. So that really was a powerful experience from the race.
Yeah, and you know, for those of you who don't know, you know, Sam is born and bred here in Boulder, and you know, tell us a little about, you know, how before. I mean, now we know where you are at your career with the triathlons and everything, but tell us a little bit more about when you're at Boulder High and running. What almost led you to this point?
Yeah, I think when I was growing up, I was just a very active individual. I grew up as a triplet, actually, so with 2 other guys. So as you can imagine, that was always an experience.
Yeah.
We were always playing games and running around outside. And also my dad played a big role, I think, in my endurance component. I remember when I was like 10 or 11, he would take me out on these 5 and 6 hour mountain bike rides.
Wow.
And I would be completely crushed. I mean, I'd come back and I'd just fall asleep, even if it's 2 in the afternoon.
Right.
And then, my mom, too, she's a psychologist, so I think she's really helped me kind of with those positive affirmations that I used in the race.
Awesome.
And, yeah, so growing up was just active and then, but never super specific. And now I think I have the energy to get really specific and focused.
In terms of, nutrition-wise, I mean, what do you eat for fuel while competing during the race?
Yeah, so I use First Endurance. It's a nutrition brand out there. It's really good for that stuff. I try and avoid solid food in an Ironman just so that there's no gut issues. Towards the end of the day, it always gets a little sweet, because you're just taking in sugar all day.
Right.
But outside of competition, I eat pretty much all just like whole-based, organic, natural foods. I never really will eat simple sugars like that except for when I race.
Okay. And then outside, when you're training, outside of the race, what would you say you typically eat on a base?
Yeah, so then I'm just a big fan of like solid food. So I'll use Cliff Bars a lot. I'm a big fan of Fig Bars too. They're super cheap, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Kind of anything I can get my hands on that's easy to eat and still water and electrolytes. I mean, I'm not opposed to eating peanut butter and jellies on riding out too.
Of course, no. I'm still a big fan of those. Not ashamed to admit that. And so, now, what kind of cross training do you currently, work with?
So I do a ton of strength training.
Okay.
I think that's actually one of the defining features of me as an athlete. Is I also played football when I was growing up till my junior year, and then that was kind of when I got into endurance sports. So I was not opposed to being in the weight room and lifting very heavy weights, and that's still kind of a part of what I do. I don't lift anywhere close to as heavy weights anymore because I'm not as strong in that sense, but I love to do the EC Fit stuff. Core strength is big. I'm here in Raleigh 3 to 4 days a week doing strength training, and then I also do yoga.
Now you music-wise, or you hang out with your friends? If you turn on music, what do you like to listen to?
I like to listen to pretty much everything. Kind of depends on the scene and the situation. I grew up playing the drums as well, so.
Oh, really?
So I'm really kind of into rhythm, and so there's kind of a different thing for everything. I mean, I listen to like rap and hip hop when I want to get pumped up for a race, and a lot of times when I'm hanging out with friends, it's the modern pop songs and stuff like that. But I also love classic rock and roll, and I'm a spin instructor here too at Rally.
Awesome.
And if you've ever come to any of my spin classes, you know that I play a huge variety of music. Some jazz even shows up in my spin classes.
Really?
Yeah.
Does that get you going?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, it's not your typical jazz. It's very hyped up, kind of more swing jazz.
Okay. But, I mean, a great variety, and I'm sure you've got a really nice playlist for whenever your spin class. Maybe you have to drop by sometime.
Yeah.
Your favorite food? You have, or maybe even a favorite place you like to go here in Boulder for a special dish?
Gosh, my favorite food is just straight up avocados.
Really? So like chips and guac would that be your go-to?
That would go in it. Guacamole on an egg, or just straight avocado on anything. I'll put avocado, or just straight plain as a snack with some salt. Yeah, so that's probably my favorite food.
What is your most difficult obstacle you overcome, and how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, so I think every race kind of, as you actually get more fit, you have to challenge yourself more. And so every race I go, and maybe it's just experience as I get used to pushing myself harder, and doesn't have anything to do with fitness, but every race I go, dang, I couldn't have pushed myself any harder. And then the next race I push myself harder, and I go, dang, I couldn't have pushed myself any harder, So it's kind of this perpetuating curve of pushing myself harder, and I look forward to finding that limit if I ever can, which it's hard to say if I ever will.
What's your favorite event in the triathlon? Is there a certain part, like, which one out of the three? Which one do you like to? You're like, man, I'm gonna crush it.
That'd probably be the bike.
The bike?
Yeah. People who have followed me and people who know me know that. Yeah, I'm pretty good on the bike compared to my other ones. There's a lot of progress still to go, obviously, but that's one of the ones where I get there and I typically know I'm going to be strong on the bike.
Yeah, and now has that been? I mean, obviously it's been through practice and through training, but what do you think really has allowed you to become successful at that stage?
Yeah, I think it's part of it. I think has to do with my body type and that I'm a strength-based athlete. So kind of coming back to being in the weight room and stuff is, I think I'm able to push a lot of power on the bike. Whereas how heavy you are isn't so important when you time trial, as opposed to with running.
Right.
How heavy you are compared to your strength is important. So I think that plays a role, and I also just think it's practice and getting out there every day, and I just always have felt so connected to a bike, which is kind of hard to explain, but I'm just kind of myself when I bike, and I think that's honestly part of where the strength comes from.
Yeah, I'm sure confidence as well as when you're on the bike, and it just kind of feeling like you're in your own zone. I think I should have put more training in there, but then you get a different outcome. Does that happen to you recently?
Oh yeah, that happened. That hasn't happened this season, but last season I actually had a run injury.
Okay.
It was nothing. I shouldn't call it a run injury. I had a little running problem where I could only run about 15 miles a week, otherwise I would get injured. So I was limited in my running ability, and I went and I did these 2 races, and I went, geez, I'm gonna have a hard time on this run here, right? Because I haven't been running much, and the races were back to back last year in July. In both races, I had the fastest run of the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So
that was surprising. I went, oh geez, I'm gonna get crushed on the run. And I had the fastest run of the day, and ended up. Those were 2 of my best results I've had. That was at Beaver Creek in Calgary last year, and so yeah, that stuff happens.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, I mean, I think it goes to show too, right? Is that never underestimate yourself, right? There's always rooms where maybe you think one thing, but you never know until you go out there and actually do it. So.
Yeah, totally, and it comes back to what you're talking about in belief and confidence. Is try and have that confidence in yourself. And maybe fake it until you make it, right? you may not know what you're capable of until it happens.
Right. But is there a certain place in Colorado that you like to try? I mean, I know you live, here in Boulder, right? But is there a certain place you like to go train? If you want to, do you go to the mountains? Do you go to Colorado Springs, Denver? Do you like to stick around here?
Yeah. So I'm fortunate enough. My family has a house up in Crested Butte.
Awesome.
And so I'll go up there. I'm actually heading up there tomorrow for 2 weeks. And it's kind of just a small mountain town. My house sits up at about 9,400 feet too, though, so I get a lot of elevation training in up there. But it's just fresh mountain air. They've got great freshwater swimming, so I do that. And I always go up there and just feel like I come back really strong.
Awesome. And now, do you feel a difference when you go? I mean, because I think I'm interested, but I think maybe others are interested as well in terms of we're here Mile High, right? We live in Colorado. Do you feel that difference when you go to sea level, or does it kind of go away when you're racing?
You definitely feel the difference. Well, you may not feel it, but I mean, because you'll just push yourself harder. But I think it's at least 15 seconds a mile running in like an Ironman, for example.
So you can definitely feel the advantage of training up at altitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, it typically, what brought you here to RallySport? I think we'd all be curious to hear, did you come here when you were younger? Did you start here older? When did you really start, how were you introduced to this place?
Yeah, some things choose you is what I will say to that. I've been a member here at Rally since I was 6 months old.
Wow.
And I've never left, so that's a choice, and I don't plan on leaving. I love the community here. I love the classes here. I love the coaches here. I love the whole atmosphere. So while I didn't choose to come here, I certainly am happy I'm here and that I've grown up here my whole life.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming in here today. I know you're a busy man. You're leaving tomorrow. Thank you for spending your time with us. I'm sure everybody's going to be really interested to hear what you have to say today, and I appreciate you coming in, Sam. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Sam Go Long. His Instagram is Sam Go Long. Go follow him. You can. Everybody here at RallySport will continue to follow you, and appreciate you coming in today, Sam. Thank you very much.
Great. See you later.